Good day, everybody. We are here in California with Morsels of a Thought number 1738. This is Yin Yang, broadcasting from San Francisco. We are on a book, Greg S. Reid, Ben Haldeman, national bestseller Lunar Legacy, The DNA of Success. Now, Greg S. Reid is also an author of 3 Feet from Gold. If you've heard of that, then you've probably heard of Greg S. Reid. We're in chapter 9. After a long talk with his dad the following day, Ben felt more relaxed and grounded. When he was younger, he had spent time in the Peruvian rainforest to be closer to nature and to deepen his sense of spirituality. Now, my morsels of a thought are hopefully thoughts of wisdom. We borrow wisdom from people like Greg Reid and Ben Haldeman. We borrow wisdom because when we know the right thing to do for ourselves, that is wisdom. Other people have their life experiences and they give them to us in books, and we read of their life experiences and they tell us where their pitfalls were, so we know the pitfalls. We know our pitfalls if it applies to our lives. So we relax and read morsels of a thought of wisdom, hopefully to know what the right thing to do is, because doing the right thing is a form of virtue, and we're bringing more virtue into the world. So, after a long talk with his dad the following day, Ben felt more relaxed and grounded. When he was younger, he had spent time in the Peruvian rainforest to be closer to nature and to deepen his sense of spirituality. The conversation with his dad had somehow reawakened his desire to reconnect with nature, so he started taking long walks and spending more time outside. While in the rainforest, Ben had learned to meditate and become one with the natural world. Yesterday, I got an uh, shamanic rituals tape, and I'm anxious to listen to it. It's a 2 tape set. It's actual audio tapes. It was brand new, had never been opened. So I'm going to be looking at that. And I was at a really cool sale by St. Paul's Episcopal Church in Burlingame, California, which is 14 miles south of San Francisco. Okay, here we go. While in the rainforest, Ben had learned how to meditate and become one with the natural world. He discovered a spiritual side to life in the forest that he could actually hear. With his bare feet in the dirt, he was able to sense the heartbeat of the earth, which also helped to calm his own. On one of his walks in an area of woodland off the beaten trail, he sat and listened to the wind stirring around him, waiting for it to share its secrets. Once again, he could hear the message, and it reinvigorated his soul and spirit. It was a good time to ground himself, knowing that this was where he was meant to be and what he was meant to do. By the way, if you've ever heard of the saying, God wants you here now, that is an interesting statement of fact. God wants you here now. I heard that from someplace else. I don't remember who said it, but it was a quote as well. So I'm just inserting that quote in here because it's applicable to all of us. Okay, now humans are part of nature, the earth, and the universe. There is a purpose and a reason for everything, including humanity. In the grand scheme of things, we are players in the story of the universe. The earth, capital E, guides us and helps us grow. It gives us everything we need. Civilizations have come and gone with no real way of knowing how many, and only a tiny fraction has ventured beyond this planet. Ben saw Lunar Legacy, capital L, as a unique opportunity to leave the ultimate footprint and to be remembered. Without it, we would just disappear when the sun burns out. The legacy mission to the moon is the first seed of life outside of Earth. As humanity evolves and advances, life can be forever preserved beyond the moon to Mars, other planets, star systems, galaxies, and beyond. Writing and creating the story of humanity to send across the galaxy is Earth's calling card. Human civilizations in the future can find it and make an off world copy. In the same way, we have biological seed dispersal so plants can transport their seeds to essentially continue their life cycle. This would send humanity outside of our world. Like in nature, the Earth is a parent planet relying on us to spread its seed. The Gaia hypothesis, Gaia, which is the Greek word for Earth, Mother Earth, hypothesis, capital G, capital H. The Gaia hypothesis, named after the Greek goddess of Earth, is the idea that Earth is a living organism that can regulate its own environment, able to maintain conditions that are favorable for life to survive. And perhaps most important, it is the living things on Earth that give the planet this ability. While Earth produces life, humans can spread and expand that life. Ben felt that purpose while he was meditating for the first time in the rainforest during a spiritual retreat. He felt the story of life inside him, the evolution of life in all its forms, all bursting to expand and grow. Ben felt Earth's gift to humanity. These are words of wisdom, morsels of a thought for words of wisdom, hopefully that we learn the right things to do for ourselves and the world and bring more virtue by using our wisdom. By using our wisdom, we are creating virtue. And we are on 1738. During the peace and serenity of meditation, say the authors, he questioned all the chaos in the world. How could turmoil and disorder thrive if the earth is trying to grow? He sat and waited until the earth answered him again. The earth in the present is guided by the universe, past and future. However messy, crazy, and scary, it must exist in order to make sense on a grander scale. Ben knew that within the philosophy of yoga and Buddhism, everything is perfect the way it is. There is a guiding force threading the most complex and extraordinary needle that plays a big role in the life of the universe. Yoga and Buddhism ponder the cosmos and our place within it. If humanity cared for the planet and each other, the world would be filled with love and hope. Feeling rejuvenated, Ben felt a strong desire to share his newfound energy with the rest of the world. Walking through his garden, he plucked a grape tomato and popped it into his mouth. The sweet flavor burst across his taste buds. Ben pulled out his phone, bringing it to life for the first time all day. He sat on the deck, gazing out to his garden, and wanted others to share in this feeling of being calm, focused, and centered. Looking for more people to join his legacy trip, he turned to social media, his least favorite way of talking to people, but the most effective way of reaching many people at once. Ben live streamed to explain the Lunar Legacy mission and announced that he was seeking more trailblazers. He used a sample box and opened up the kit to demonstrate how recipients would collect their DNA from a cheek swab, and he read the question card they would fill out to tell more about who they are. Perhaps the most important piece of information Ben shared with his audience was how to leave their legacy. For his live video, Ben used his grandfather's legacy since it was still fresh in his mind. When Ben finished sharing his message, he set down his phone and a deep sense of accomplishment washed over him. It was as if he had just told the world what was waiting for them. They could join him, support him, or learn more about what's next in space travel through his lens. Satisfied, he put his phone on the counter and started preparing dinner. As he chopped the fresh spices he purchased at the local farmer's market, he thought about what the vendors at the market had taught him about plant based medicines and the benefits of using the nutrients from foods to treat and heal his body. Ben recalled the shaman he met during a trip to Costa Rica and how he inspired Ben to research ancient healing powers and the energies from spirits and plants. Ben knew that humans have been using plants for thousands of years to alter their state of mind, connect with nature, treat wounds and illnesses, and survive off the land. It's a lot like Ayurvedic medicine as well, and Chinese TCM, traditional Chinese medicine as well, and Tibetan medicine as well. Thousands of years old. Ben knew that humans have been using plants for thousands of years to alter their state of mind, connect with nature, treat wounds and illnesses, and survive off the land. He wanted to learn more about what the earth and nature provide and how best to use its creations for their health benefits instead of the more harmful, processed, and packaged alternatives. The holistic way of eating and treating helped Ben feel more energetic, alert, and generally healthier. His friends often complained about feeling drained and lethargic as they sipped their third sugary iced coffees of the day. Ben, on the other hand, was one to stretch himself physically and mentally. He ran the Boston Marathon when he was in high school, and he'd also completed 4 Ironman triathlons. After college, he continued to push himself and completed ultra marathons, running 100 miles in under 24 hours. And later, he climbed the nose of El Capitan, capital N, a 3,000 feet cliff in Yosemite. That's in California. His friends believed it was the early morning yoga that gave him his strength and focus, but there was so much more to it than that. He used mindfulness skills to learn what his body and mind were trying to say and what his body needed through his emotions, cravings, and desires. Being in nature was an important aspect of his lifestyle, while yoga sharpened his physical form, his state of mind, and his spiritual journey. That night, after spending a quiet evening watching a movie, he went to bed. The following morning, Ben crept downstairs to make breakfast. As his eggs sizzled in the pan, he grabbed his phone off the counter where it had been since the night before. The video he posted was the last activity posted on his phone, so it was the first thing Ben saw when his phone lit up. He thought he was dreaming when he noticed his video had received over 500,000 views. He had gone viral overnight, received over 500,000 views. Wow. 500,000. That's 500,000. That's 500,000. Wow. Chapter 10. Viral? Are you sure? Destiny questioned when he called to share the news. None of this made sense to either of them. Ben posted videos rarely and never received more than a few views from close friends and family, like me. Like me. People are watching my video. Does this mean they want to be part of what I'm doing? Ben stared at his phone in shock. It's question mark exclamation point here. He was flooded with messages, well wishes, and requests to join the mission. Among them was a request from the city's newspaper asking for an interview. He replied straight away, hoping to arrange an interview as soon as possible. This was the perfect opportunity to gain as much exposure as possible while people were actively talking about it. We're reading Morsels of a Thought of Wisdom from Greg S. Reid and Ben Haldeman. Lunar Legacy, DNA of Success. This is a national bestseller. We read Morsels of a Thought of Wisdom in order to get some wisdom. And knowing the right thing to do is a form of wisdom. And actually doing it is a form of virtue. So we can bring more virtue into the world by using morsels of a thought at a time. Make sure you wear a nice shirt in case they want a picture, Destiny had suggested, because she knew that in Ben's mind, a graphic tee and a pair of sneakers was always a good idea. I'm going to run a few errands this morning and I'm teaching 2 classes this afternoon. How about meeting up for dinner and you can fill me in? Absolutely, he agreed. When he came back downstairs a few minutes later, Ben was wearing his faithful plaid shirt. It was his favorite, and he always felt comfortable when he wore it. As he walked away and around the corner, his confidence grew with each stride. By the time he approached the cafe where he'd agreed to meet the journalist, Ben's mind was swimming with all the things he wanted to say, which he hoped he wouldn't forget. Ben arrived first and found a quiet table near a window. The reporter walked in a few minutes later and smiled at Ben when they made eye contact, and then crossed the room to join him. Because this is a live video, you can see the person's face and know who it is. They shook hands and hit it off immediately. Like 2 old school friends catching up after 20 years. They were about the same age, so they could have been classmates if Ben had grown up in the city. The reporter encouraged Ben to talk openly about himself, his background, and most important, the Lunar Legacy Mission, LL. Originally, the reporter was under the impression that Ben's intention was to personally travel to the moon to deliver the lunar legacy information and then return home. Ben explained that it had always been his childhood dream to do just that, but in the present, he would stay on Earth with his feet firmly on the ground. In the meantime, the legacies and DNA would be ready. They would be ready to visit the moon whenever humans next chose to visit the lunar surface. Ben shared his website and contact information with the reporter, who asked to be kept in the loop about the launch so he could cover the follow-up story for that event. They shook hands and went their separate ways. As Ben walked home, he found himself replaying the interview in his head and pondering one question in particular. What is my legacy? He came to the conclusion that he needed more time to determine the answer because he wasn't ready to decide. While the legacies of his father and grandfather were clear to him, his own personal mission would be discovering his legacy for himself. Over the next few days, Ben received an overwhelming number of messages and more website traffic than he could handle. This He sifted through all the messages, reading countless stories and legacies people had submitted. One in particular caught his eye. Daryl Stern with Stern Marketing Academy wrote that he would be proud to be part of Ben's launch to spread the seeds of humanity and help people learn from each other's lessons, like we do on Marcels of a Thought. To you, everything you know and everything you can teach is ordinary. To others, these gifts are extraordinary. We can use the talents of each other to help civilization, Daryl stated. It's exactly what we're doing on this live show. In grade school, I learned how to tie a knot in the Boy Scouts. 20 years later, I used that knot to help save a fallen climber in the Rockies. I had forgotten about the time I learned how to tie the knot, and I had no idea I still remembered how to do it. My point is that you can use skills that were so ordinary to you to teach somebody who needs that knowledge. To them, it can be extraordinary. Extraordinary. That gift can even help you save a life. To sum it up, this is what I want my legacy to be. You are the gift to the world, and the world needs your gift. Daryl finished, quote, end quote. You are the gift to the world, and the world needs your gift, end quote. Ben felt Daryl was talking directly to him rather than to an audience that might find his legacy in the future. Ben thought about the ordinary things he did throughout the day. What would be considered extraordinary? He reflected on his childhood, like Darrell had mentioned with the knot in Boy Scouts. Most of his afternoons had been spent with his grandparents. If his grandpa was working, he would make dinner with his grandmother because she wouldn't let him watch TV before dinner, and he preferred keeping himself creative and busy with his hands anyway. At first, cooking didn't seem like a gift to him, but when he asked Destiny's opinion, she jumped on it enthusiastically, as if Ben should have seen it all along. Of course, your gift is cooking. You pick the freshest ingredients out of your garden, like your grandma taught you, and you remember all of her old family recipes. Gardening, cooking, and the meals you prepare for others are your gifts to share, and they're all done with love and care, Destiny explained. Ben felt those were his grandmother's gifts that she had shared with him. He never considered them to be his own. Throughout the evening, he thought of his mission as his gift to let the idea blossom from gift to legacy. As incredible as it might sound to others, space travel was ordinary to Ben. He had studied it for years and could talk about it in his sleep. Launching into space and dropping a capsule of information full of legacies and DNA on the moon was certainly extraordinary, but over time, even that might become ordinary. He liked the idea of it being normal for people to send their legacy somewhere in space and choose a destination for it to live, the moon, a planet, maybe even an asteroid hurtling through the universe. Now that was a gift he could teach and share with the world. He wanted to spread the message that humans can expand past the boundaries of Earth and find extraordinary things all around them. To him, it was a reminder that the world needed his gift now. Ben wrote back to Darrell so he could gather more information and send him the DNA kit to join them on their mission to space. They wrote to each other frequently, with Ben curious to learn more about Darrell's gift, which he discovered was in video marketing. During their conversations, Ben decided he would ask Darrell to shoot the launch and help him market his mission so they could expand the idea as they executed more launches and drops in the future. Darrell gave Ben's website a much needed facelift since it was getting more traffic, and he embedded and linked Ben's video to the website to make it more user friendly. Darrell had a way of making Ben feel more elevated and noticed through his knowledge of media known more elevated and noticed. Their new partnership and collaboration were a perfect fit. Ben was so happy to have met him. Together they were able to find new ways to capture Ben's mission and market his message. This was a whole new world to Ben, who had never really marketed himself or his work before. Darrell gave him the platform, the ideas, and the know how to capture the essence of who Ben was and what he was trying to achieve. Ben checked each page on his website and every video to give them his final seal of approval, and they published the site. His About Me page took him much longer than he hoped it would, and it felt impossible to get it right. It was a constant work in progress. He wanted his audience to know he was there to hear their stories, share their legacies, and apply what he felt were good lessons. But he also wanted to establish his own core values. Using brainstorms and journal entries, Ben made a list of everything he could say about his values and beliefs. In the end, he felt like he was making real progress, and along the way, he was getting to know himself more than ever before. So here we are. We're going to start on chapter 11 next time. And I think that we're learning a lot from the Lunar Legacy DNA of Success by author Greg S. Reid and Ben Haldeman. Greg S. Reid is an author of 3 Feet from Gold. Okay, we'll end with the man who always wanted virtue, old Kinderhook.